Welcome to the Hawkins Observer, a podcast where two lifelong friends recap and analyze every episode of Stranger Things as we prepare for the release of the final season later this month.
True. As always, we'll give you a scene-by-scene recap discussing the plot and developments, as well as sharing our thoughts, memories, and reactions.
In this episode, 11 spies on people, Will destroys a castle, Hopper isn't the one getting smashed by wine, and Billy smiles.
So grab your bolt cutters and put on your motorcycle helmet, because here comes Season 3, Episode 3, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard.
Another vanishing, maybe. Well, we are headlong into our journey towards Season 5. It's upon us. We just kind of realized it in the last recap. Like, we can't say this November anymore because it's already this November. So do yourself a favor, do us a favor, and like these videos. Just click the thumbs up button. Doesn't do anything except help us out. Comment what you're thinking. We are talking to each other, but we know that this is a shared experience with our audience. So let us know where you think we're totally crazy or what you think about our recaps. And then subscribe, because we're going to have some additional bonus content coming that's a little bit different than these recaps we've been doing. So you don't want to miss it as well. Thank you.
Come on, all y'all. All right, well, let's kick off 303. It's nighttime. We're at Hopper's cabin, and it's the same day. So Elle and Max have returned from the mall, and they're just dancing in her room, listening to music. And Elle is looking through a stereotypical 80s like boy magazine, like I don't remember what they were called. My sister used to have a bunch of them. But anyway, Levin's flipping through a magazine, and she sees Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid, and she's like, "Wow, who's this?" And Max is like, "I bet he's an amazing kisser." And then Max gets a little nosy. Is Mike a good kisser? And Elle's like, I don't know. He's my only boyfriend ever. Max is sure that Mike is going to come crawling back and begging for forgiveness. And Max has this like not an idea, but Max is like, what I wouldn't give to see their stupid faces. And they both go, We see 11 donning a blindfold. Radio static turns on, and she enters the black void. And sure enough, she starts spying on the boys. Mike is laid prostrate on a couch like he's at a counseling session. I think he's eating Doritos too. And Lucas, he tells Mike that, Mike, you're the victim. And Mike's like, yeah, what did I do wrong? And they start talking about women. They're like, just relax. Women act on emotion. They're not very logical. It's like they're a different species. And Will says something. I think he probably asked again. They're like, not right now. And they keep going like, we're trying to solve the mystery of the female species, but like, what do we do? And then like the seriousness of the moment is interrupted with Mike just belching. He's like, oh, that's a good nacho cheese burp. And then Lucas is like, oh, you think that smells? And Lucas is like, rips a big one. And 11 just pulls the mask, her blindfold, just laughing. Like she's literally caught them burping and farting, and they both think it's so funny. Hopper walks in at the same time, having just been stood up. So he's still very, very drunk, and he hears laughing coming from 11's room, and he assumes the worst. He's like, oh crap, Mike's probably in there. So he barges in, hey, 3 inches. And he walks in, and it's not Mike, it's Max. And Hopper's just taken back. He's like, I'm sorry. And 11's like, Max, we just wanted to have a sleepover. Is that okay? And Hopper's like, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's really cool. And they're like, did you need something? Like, he just grins and like, he's just so happy that it's not Mike. So Hopper kicks in his recliner, kicks off his shoes, kicks up the recliner, just as happy as he could be. Then the girls play their own version of Spin the Bottle, which is spy on people, spin the bottle. And the first one it lands on, they're like, no, let's not do that. When they spin again, it lands on Billy. So Max is like, okay, we can spy on Billy, but if you do spy on Billy, if he's with the girl, you may want to back out real quick because he could be doing something really gross. So 11's like, okay, whatever. So she puts the blindfold back on, radio static, and she finds Billy's car first. She kind of looks around. She kind of looks concerned. Something doesn't feel right. And she starts to walk over to it. And I was reminded, like, when she's in the void, sometimes, I don't know if all the time, but she's walking and it's like there's an inch of water. It's not that deep, but she's stepping through water. And she looks inside, then sees the trunk, and then she sees Billy hunched over a girl. And this whole scene is recreated, the "Don't Be Afraid" scene where Billy's about to take the tape off the lifeguard's mouth. And 11 just watches this whole scene take place. And Billy kind of turns in the basement as if he kind of sees 11 in his own form of spying or shadow visioning. And 11 removes the blindfold, very afraid. Roll credits.
So
It's a trippy scene, man. Super
much.
trippy.
Yeah, and the thing that struck me so much at the end of the scene, and then I'll work backwards, is when Billy turns around in the basement, he sees like a glitchy version of 11 standing there, almost as if he is seeing through the void to her.
Yep.
She's not crystal clear. It's like a TV static kind of glitchy version of her. And 11 feels like she's been spotted, and she's kind of right. And so in this scene, we have two instances of her spying. One ends in just laughter. I mean, it's the first time she takes off her blindfold and isn't perturbed by something.
That's true.
She's just laughing and like she's, spying on them, burping and farting and being boys. And that's really funny to her. And then she gets a little bold, like, oh, maybe this isn't always going to lead to something catastrophic. And then, and then just sees the worst thing that she could see. Um,
I'm reminded now, the first one it lands on is Ted Wheeler. And they both agree, they're like, boring.
yeah. It's funny that he even got included in that circle
Yeah,
of um but geez, I mean the fact that he what's funny is that we didn't see this clip in the end of last episode of him turning around and seeing her, which we suspect happened at that same time.
true.
Um, but yeah, again, we're poor Will just is not included in the conversation, not even being given the time of day. Like something's going to happen with Will, surely, that like he's not just going to let them ignore him for an entire season.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so after the credits roll, we cut back to the boys. It's the following morning, and they also had a sleepover. So Will and Lucas had stayed at Mike's house. Strange that they didn't invite Dustin. But anyway, Mike and Lucas wake up to music blaring, and Will is in costume as Will the Wise. And he just goes right into, what this morning's going to be like, a day free of girls. And Mike and Lucas are just like barely coming out of sleep. They're like, it's too early. Like, do we have to do this? And Will says something weird. He goes, "Is it? Is it early, Michael?" He calls him Michael, very
Yeah.
strange. But Will just stays in character and basically is like, "Are you going to be the heroes you were meant to be?"
Will is not it's funny because you can tell in the last couple scenes that they've kind of shrugged him off. He's really bothered by it. I think here it's almost like a guy who's trying to like make the moves on a woman. He finally just stops asking. Like he just stops asking and he just kind of takes control of the situation, thinking maybe I just need to be more aggressive.
Yeah,
Um, and it's a little sad to watch.
like you said, I mean, he he was basically robbed of part of his childhood, and the
Yeah.
last pleasant thing he remembers prior to all the supernatural stuff is like just the boys being boys in the basement and playing D&D. Like that's where his childhood kind of ended. So it makes sense that he's just trying to recreate those good, easy times.
Well, and Mike has always been their dungeon master. So like every time we've seen them playing, Mike is the one being the master, but Will is going to create his own campaign now. He's going to even go further with dressing up and kind of, really taking control of the situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, Meanwhile, across town, the next same morning, Hopper is taking some pills. Presumably, he's maybe a little hungover, and he's just drinking milk straight from the carton to wash some pills down. At least he's not drinking a beer this early. But anyway, on the fridge, he sees a note that Eleven's crappy handwriting says "Gone to Max's for a sleepover." That's kind of an early decision that they've already left that morning to go to Max's house. But anyway, he's interrupted because he hears knocking at the front door, and Joyce barges in. And she has a purse full of magnets, and the magnets aren't sticking to his fridge either. And Hopper is just like shocked to see her, but like not, not really wanting to give her the time of the day. And I think he lies. He's like, okay, you're freaking me out. Like she explains that all the magnets are losing their magnetism, and then she's like, and I went to see Scott Clark, and Hopper's like just taking note of everything from his point of view. So he kind of gets immediately jealous, like, oh, that's where you were. You were at another guy's house. And then Hopper's like, no phone call, no apology. You've outdone yourself, Joyce. And eventually he circles back to Scott Clark. He's like, he is brilliant. Is he single too? And Joyce is on point. She doesn't she's not feeling Hopper's feelings. She's really concerned about this. And she just cuts to the point. She's like, what if it's them? What if this is the lab? And uh she says, take me back there. Like we have to go back. And he still is just like not hearing her. And because he's hurt. So he's like, I think you got scared. And now you're just inventing things to push me away. And God forbid any of us move on. Would that be too much to move on from the craziness of Hopkins? Joyce. And Joyce is left the scene, and he runs outside like, where the heck did she go? And she busts out of his storage shed, which storage sheds are a thing in this show.
Yeah.
She busts out of there and she's carrying bolt cutters. And she's on a mission, and she's going to go break into this lab with or without Hopper. Like
Yeah.
she's on, and Hopper's like struggling to put on his shoes because he knows he has to help her now because she's going to do it.
Such a tough scene to watch because you see both of them in such emotion, just totally missing each other with everything.
Yep.
Hopper just so like, you're not even going to talk about what happened last night, and Joyce is just like, guys,
She's
you know,
assuming the worst.
we got other things. Yeah, we've got really important things I need to discuss with you. She doesn't get it. Hopper doesn't hear her. It's a hard scene to watch, but uh, in all of it, Joyce wants to go back to the lab, and she's not going to be deterred.
Yep. From there, we cut to Max and 11 walking somewhere, and Max says, like, it's about to start raining. Like, we should be at the mall. And Eleven's like, you don't believe me? Because obviously Max had just explained what she saw when she was spying on Billy. And so Max was like, okay, you heard a girl scream, but sometimes when Billy's with girls, he makes them happy scream. And she, 11 has no clue what she's talking about. Max doesn't really want to explain anymore. So they arrive to Max's house, having probably walked from the cabin, from Hopper's cabin. And Eleven's looking at Max's house, still concerned, but they go in, and Eleven basically just starts looking for clues to make sense of what she saw in her spawning. They look at Billy's room, no real hints there. But then they go into the bathroom, and the bathtub is full of water, but it's from melted bags of ice. And Max is like, it's probably for his muscles. He works out like a maniac. But then 11 spots what looks like blood on the vanity, the lower cabinets. And in the trash can is a lifeguard's hip belt and a bloody whistle. And 11 looks very worried.
Second time we've seen a bathtub um, related to something nefarious. Will wouldn't get in the bathtub in the last season.
Good point.
Here we've got these melted bags of ice that's filled this entire bathtub.
Yeah.
And 11 is kind of back to her very worried look, we're very familiar with worried 11 face, and we're getting a lot of it in this scene.
It's true. Uh, Nancy and Jonathan are back at the dark room at the paper, and they're looking at pictures that Jonathan had taken of the rats, not really making sense of them. Um, and Nancy takes this idea that there's something going wrong in town to all the men of the paper. Um, like she's basically like, listen, I think we're onto something here. Like these rats, what if this is an outbreak of some type of rabies or something? So she's scared. And she's like, Mrs. Driscoll's not alone. Like, I found out that supplies are going missing, pesticides and cleaning supplies and diesel fuel. All these things are being stolen and coming up missing from various houses and people. So Nancy really believes that she's onto something strange, sick rats and missing supplies. And they laugh her out. The guys all laugh at her. But then the main boss, he kind of gets serious for a second. And, maybe this is something big. But then he turns that into a joke too. And they laugh at her again. And he finishes, puts a period on this session by saying, next time a call comes in, do what you were hired for. So just not giving Nancy any time of day.
Yeah, they're not even, I mean, they did joke and everything, but so far it's kind of been funny. Like, aha, Nancy Drew and all of that.
Yeah.
But now, along with the jokes, is a more direct order of like, stop doing this, do
Yeah.
what you're paid to do, answer the phones, bring us our sandwiches, make us our coffee, and just and don't try to make something out of this job that it's not.
Yeah. We've already talked about it, but what these men lack is curiosity. They just assume that
Yeah.
she can't be right because she's a girl. They're not
Yep.
even curious about what she's discovered.
Yeah, I mean, you get the impression that whatever this newspaper is or this publication isn't really the best that Hawkins has to offer because all these guys, like you said, they're not actual, you know, um, competent journalists.
It feels like a good old boys club.
Yes.
Um, it's as if like the entire staff of the city parks and rec mowing team just immediately got hired to be the newspaper men. Like,
Yeah.
hey, turn in your mowers and come type a
Yeah.
paper. That's how
Yeah.
seriously they're
In
taking it.
1985, when sexism in the workplace was still rampant.
Yeah. From there, we cut back to the mall at ice cream, and Erica, she's persistent. She's in there dinging, 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 but Robin has actually got her earbuds in because she's listening to the Russian transmission, and and Robin kind of cuts her off, and she's like, "No more samples today." And from there, we cut to Steve, and he's actually spying inside the mall with binoculars. They're looking for, evil Russians or maybe people wearing earpieces or a duffel bag. And, meanwhile, Dustin's like, Steve, Robin is awesome, and I think she's kind of perfect for you. And Steve lists off 1,000, reasons why Robin is not his type. And Dustin has a little mature moment and he's like, rather than date someone who's just going to make you more popular, why don't you date someone you just actually like to be around?
Dustin and Steve have a real friendship here. It
Mm-hmm.
is curious that Dustin hasn't been included in all of the Mike, Will, Lucas stuff this season so far, but he's kind of found a new friend in Steve.
And
And
theoretically, it's only like he's only been back from camp, what, 1 full day, 2 full days, maybe?
sure, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
So,
and he and Steve are kind of on this curiosity voyage. They're on their own of this Russian transmission that Robin's helping him with.
yeah. So Dustin gets back on, let's say, day one, and the kids surprise him at home. That evening, he records the transmission. Day two, he goes and says hi to Steve for the first time since he's come back. Steve's super excited to see him. And Dustin says, "You won't believe what I captured." So essentially, this is just the morning ish of day three of Dustin
Yep,
actually being home. Yeah, it's
yep.
still weird that the boys,
Have a sleepover without Dustin.
yeah, but Dustin was at the mall late last night as it was closing with Steve and Robin. So
Yep.
just trying to put the timeline together for myself.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Uh, from there, we cut to the Wheeler's house, and actually is raining. So, and Will is leading Dungeons and Dragons, and Mike and Lucas could not look more tired and bored. They're not really giving their all or anything, but Will is still in character doing his best job. And then the telephone rings and Mike's kind of like relieved as if like, "Ugh, I could I can do something else." He answers it, it's telemarketers. But Will can see that they don't want to play and he's pissed. So Will's like, just forget it, Mike. I'm going home now. You're never in the mood to play Dungeons and Dragons anymore. You're ruining our party. Like, where's Dustin? You don't even know where Dustin is and you don't care. And so you're like destroying our party for what? So you could swap spit with a stupid girl? And Mike's like, Ella's not stupid, and it's not my fault you don't like girls. We're not kids anymore.
Yeah.
Whoa. Shots fired.
I mean, Dungeons and Dragons, I had never played it. We talked about this until recently, and
Mhm.
friends of ours, I had mentioned in season one, I think, that some friends of ours played it. And I was mentioning to them that we have this podcast, and they said, okay. And then they spotted the fact that we talked about their Dungeons and Dragons campaign in our podcast.
Mhm.
And then I got invited to play D&D with them one night. And so
Mhm.
I played what they call a one shot, which is not a full campaign. It's just it begins and ends in one night. And it's so involved, you really have to be in character to play it. Otherwise, it really just feels like a elementary school, play. And that's exactly what's happening here. Dustin, or I mean, Lucas and Mike are like leaning back in their chairs. They're barely rolling the dice. They're not giving any effort at all.
Right.
Will is trying to manufacture all of this emotion and this drama, and they're just not playing along. Like they're
Mhm.
practically not playing Dungeons and Dragons, even though they're sitting at the table.
Mhm.
And he finally snaps, like we thought maybe he would, and really just says, like, all right, guys, I've had it. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, but I'm going home because you don't even want to play anymore. You don't even know where Dustin is. Like our party that's been the most important thing to us over the last couple of years is falling apart because you are infatuated with some stupid girl. And then Mike is like, look, it's not my fault you don't like girls. What is that even supposed to mean?
Yeah.
Either that Will's not interested in relationships because he's just immature and young still, or that he's just not not into girls. But in either way, Mike is like kind of throwing it in his face in a kind of a weaponized way.
Yep.
It's like, bro, like
Mike,
he posted like just in the last season, just 3 episodes ago, you were fighting, you were literally fighting people and like risking your own life to save Will because he was so important to you. And now it's like, Will who?
dude, like I said, puberty changes everything.
Ah,
You could go from you could go from slaying supernatural monsters, and if you hit puberty the next day, you don't think about that anymore. You're just girl focused.
yeah. I mean, that's so real.
It really is. I mean, I don't know what the female experience of having, going through puberty and like your focus changes. I mean, I guess from a young age, girls play with dolls, which kind of points them in the direction like you don't know where babies come from, but you're probably going to be a mom someday.
Right.
Whereas boys just spend all their time playing and wrestling and roughhousing and building forts and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And then all of a sudden one day you hit puberty and like your guy friends, I mean, yeah, they're still great, but it's like there's this completely other distracting world out there that you're like, I don't know how to navigate
It's
this.
almost like when Billy gets possessed by the baddie in this. It's like you just have a totally new direction to go in,
Uh-huh.
and a
Uh-huh.
new master, if you
Yeah.
will.
And a lot of times at the expense of your guy friends.
Yeah.
It's we cut to the swimming pool, public pool. It's raining, but Max and 11 have showed up, and the lifeguards are like, "You can't swim because there's lightning. Don't bother us." But they're there to ask about Billy, and they're like, "And we found this hip belt," and they're like, "Oh, that's Heather's. We'll give it back to her. She just bailed on us today." And they said, oh, so they bailed and they're like, oh, we'll give it back to her. And so Max asks Eleven, like, do you think you can find Heather? And so they go into the girls' locker room and they turn on all Max turns on all the showers just to create a white noise. And Eleven goes into the void and she sees a mailbox and then she sees a red door and she opens it and goes in. This kid has to do the bravest things. Anyway, she opens it, goes in, and then she sees a bathtub, looks in, it's full of ice, and then Heather just pops out of the ice and yells, "Help me!" And then no sooner does she say that Heather is just pulled downward by some force, and we see 11 kind of going in after her somehow, and this just bizarre underwater scary scene.
Yeah, I mean, this scene is cut short before we get any resolution or any
Mm-hmm.
sort of explanation. So we don't know what this is,
Yep.
but yeah, Heather's bailed, whatever that means, and
It's in,
yeah,
it's interesting, like 11 spying on her in essence, but the Heather she encounters at this
yeah,
moment
in the past,
is is in need of help. Like this is a scared Heather that we've just
yeah,
encountered. So for
it
some
isn't.
reason in a bathtub of ice.
She isn't just spying on her here, like we've seen her spying on Mike and Lucas in the basement,
Yeah.
um, where they can't interact with her at all. But like she meets Heather. Heather looks to be directly speaking to 11 right there in the void.
Like they see each other. Yep.
Yes.
That's interesting. This, yeah, this scene could be unpacked and even further now that I think about it. Like, it almost seems like at this point of our storyline, okay, wait. Billy took or abducted Heather last night, right? Like Heather's already been laid down in the basement and that thing attacked her. That was the end of last episode. So the fact that it's the next morning ish, it's weird that 11 encounters Heather in her right mind or a scared mind. You know what I mean? That almost feels like a little plot mistake. You know what I'm saying? Like at that moment, we know what's about to happen, but
I
at
got,
that moment, it seems like 11 is supposed to. She should have actually encountered Heather as we're about to see her what she is now, not as Ice Bath Heather.
well, I got the impression, maybe this is just wrong, that she experienced Heather in the past, that this was the time that existed between getting kind of knocked out by Billy
Yep.
and he put her on ice before he took her down to the basement.
Maybe that's one of 11's abilities is when she spies on someone, it's maybe something about it is not always in the present. Like
Yeah.
perhaps because she had that hip belt, maybe something about that physical object of Heather's, she ended up spying a little bit, in the past.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't even know why Billy would have knocked her out, put her on ice, and then took her down to the the basement,
Yeah.
or if this was supposed to be after she was kind of, you know, possessed or whatever, and now she needs it cold. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know the timeline of that either. Yeah, if that was
Could be a
before or
little bit of
after.
just for dramatic effect, and maybe we're
Sure.
reading too much into it. Or hey, this is a perfect example to leave us a comment. What are we missing?
That's so true. Three heads are stronger than two. I don't know. Anyway, from there we cut to Hopper and Joyce. They've arrived at the lab. They cut the chain that had the door sealed shut ever since the end of last season, where we saw Murray sitting out front, waving at the soldiers as they drive off. So now, for the first time, assumably since then, they've cut the chains. They're in the front door. Hopper's, kind of yelling, "Hello, anybody home?" And we see Joyce walk in, and sure enough, Joyce has an immediate flashback to Bob, what happened to him there in that last scene when he was attacked and killed by demo dogs. And but her flashback is interrupted by Hopper, like, "You okay? You want to wait in the car?" And Joyce like, "I said I'm fine." So So they start to walk into the lab, but as they walk past a security camera, it actually seems to come to life and starts blinking red.
Yeah, this is a totally different lab scene setting than we've been experiencing before. We're
Makes me want to
like,
look around to see if I see any security cameras. Ugh. Yep.
it's dark, it's been chained up, it's been abandoned for however long now.
Mhm.
And obviously, Joyce gets a flashback of Bob. We should start calling Bob, instead of Bob Newby superhero, we should call him Bob Newby, the man of a dozen deaths. We just, he just can't, we just can't help but continue to see shots of him getting absolutely eaten by these demo dogs in slow motion. Just every time we see Bob now, he's being eaten by a demo dog.
Yep.
Um,
That'd be a
but yeah,
great
I mean,
tattoo. Just
yeah, poor
Bob.
guy. Uh, I mean, it was Joyce herself that asked Hopper to take him or take her back there.
Right.
Then Hopper sees that she's kind of struggling with this, emotion of everything from the lab. Not only Bob, but obviously her son and everything that's happened and what she knows about Eleven. And he's like, "Hey, man, you don't have to do this." And she's like,
Yeah.
"I'm, I'm fine."
On the one hand, she is a strong person. Like we've seen her be strong in crazy situations, but on the other hand, it is very possible that she's been so distracted by this magnet situation that she really hadn't mentally put herself back in that lab since Bob died. And so,
Yeah, it
she,
did look like maybe she was unprepared for it,
yep.
but we are spooked by somebody might be watching.
I always feel like. Okay, so speaking of watching, we cut to back to the mall, and Dustin continues the spying. He's got the binoculars, and he spots some weird looking dude wearing sunglasses inside. Douche. He's got a big duffel bag, and he and Steve look at each other and they're like, evil Russians, we found one. And they follow him, and he almost catches them following, but they keep following him. And the scary looking dude walks into a jazzercise class. He's the sexy instructor, and he like peels off his shirt, gets the ladies going and like dancing and stuff. And in Steve's face, in my opinion, Steve kind of looks at the guy like, I could do that. This could be my future job.
He has an idea.
Yeah. Robin continues translating, and she's interrupted by a delivery man at the back door of the back hallways of the mall, and she's just caught off guard by him. She reads his transportations from a company called Lynx, and she puts it together. She's like, Lynx, Silver Cat. And then she runs out into the main part of the mall as Steve and Dustin are going back into the ice cream parlor, and she just starts looking around and she goes, "A trip to China sounds nice." And she sees a restaurant, the Imperial Panda, and then she goes, "Tread lightly, tread lightly." And she sees a shoe store, and then she's like, "When blue meets yellow in the west," and she looks at the mall's indoor clock, and it's got blue and yellow hands. And the guys run out to be like, "What are you doing?" And she looks at them and she goes, "I cracked the code."
This is such a great scene.
Mm.
It's a classic kind of, you know, everything's coming together. But as the delivery driver in the hallway walks away, the back of his uniform has the logo of the Lynx Transportation Company, and it is literally a silver cat, like inside a circle. And when she runs out into the, I don't know, food court or whatever the kind of common area is out in the mall, she like stands on a flat, like a landscaping or stands on one of those fake walls that are in there. And the camera just kind of spins in 360 degrees as she's looking around. And it's so great as she kind of puts everything together.
Yeah.
And she looks, she stands out, obviously, because she's standing above everybody else, even on an elevated platform. And she's so justified. And she's like, I did it.
It's like her beautiful mind moment. She's just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Ta-da."
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing? And she's like, guys, I cracked the code.
That I mean that permanently endears her to us as an audience. Like, okay,
Mhm.
we liked her comic relief, but now she's invested as a brain in this mission of whatever the boys think they're onto. She's going to be a part of it intellectually. So
Yeah, and I mean, she's the first new character we got introduced to since Max that's actually, and
yeah,
even Max wasn't immediately a part of the party. She was kind of this standoffish, but
that's true.
Robin folds herself in really quickly.
We're back at the Hawkins Post. Nancy's on coffee duty and she goes to open up a cabinet to make something, and the men of the office have taped a big rubber rat in there just to scare her, and they think it's hilarious. Uh, Nancy once again barges in on Jonathan in his dark room. I think that's the third time, either third or fourth picture.
Yeah.
She's ruined. And Jonathan and Nancy's like, proof. Let's give them proof. Let's get Driscoll's rat. We'll show these jerks that this is a weird thing going on with rats. So uh Tom confronts them and says, Tom, I guess, is the head boss of the newspaper, and he's like, oh wait, sorry. Jonathan says, Tom said drop it,
Yeah.
Nancy. Like, we should drop this. And Nancy's like, I'm right. I don't want to drop it. And Nancy and Jonathan's like, this is a stupid thing to get fired over. And Nancy's like, all right, just give me the keys. Like, I'll go do it myself. You stay here. And Jonathan's like, you're relentless. You know that? So Nancy can't let this go.
Yeah. I mean, when she tells Jonathan proof, she's like, that's what they asked for. They asked us to give us proof. And Jonathan's like, no, they didn't. They asked you to drop the story.
Mm.
Nancy's thinking two steps ahead. Like, they told me what they said was drop the story. What they meant is prove it to me. And that Jonathan's like pragmatic.
Yeah.
He's like, this is, don't go chasing after this stupid story. And Nancy's like, do you think this story is stupid? And Jonathan's like, it's stupid to get fired over. And yeah, Nancy's relentless. She's gonna go with or without Jonathan. And they're starting to like kind of diverge here in terms of what they expect out of this story and this job and everything.
It's
But
true.
yeah, Nancy's like, no, they just want proof. And Jonathan's like, no, they want you to drop the story.
From there, we cut back to Hopper and Joyce at the lab. Looks very, very abandoned. They make it down to where the old gash in the wall used to be, and it's very sealed. Looks like they've even added concrete, maybe. And
Yep.
Hopper kind of rubs the wall and pats it with his hand. He says, "The cavities are all filled. I watched them do it, Joyce." And then Joyce flashes back essentially to everything that's been happening, like just boom, 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 boom. But Hopper reminds her, like, it's over. Like, this part of our life is over. And then Joyce is like, I feel like I'm losing my mind. She really thought she's going to get some clues or stumble upon
Yeah.
something with the magnets. And Hopper's like, he commiserates. He doesn't make fun of her anymore. He doesn't give her a hard time. He's like, I'm keeping a close eye on things, right? Like, it's important to me that you and your family feel safe. I want you to feel like this can still be your home. Uh, what you didn't think, like, oh, okay, yeah. He says, I want you to feel like this could still be your home, because Hopper says that specifically because he found out that Joyce is fixing up her house to put it up on the market and sell it. And Hopper's like, what, you didn't think I'd find that out? Like, did you tell your kids yet? And Joyce backpedals and doesn't say anything. And so then Hopper commiserates some more. He goes, after Sarah, I had to get away and I tried to outrun those memories. But then Hopper's like, but you have something that I never had. You have the people who know what you've been through, and those people still care about you. And then Joyce gets one off. She goes, you mean people like Scott Clark? It's such a good joke. Oh, such a good joke. And then they hear a sound. And Hopper says, wait here. And he sees a door close, and Hopper's got his gun drawn.
The like Alfred Hitchcock shadow uh we get of the gun like on the closed
Oh
door.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
cinematic. So good. But this is a tender, kind of tense moment between the two of them where like we're in the lab at kind of ground zero of everything that's happened. We still see the broken glass from where the Demodogs broke through, but instead of a control panel and security lights and all of this stuff, it's just kind of an empty, like there's a scaffolding that's kind of been left there, the broom on the floor. Hopper knocks on the concrete like he's gonna have an answer on the other side, and he's like, "There's nobody home, Joyce." Like this whole thing is just it's over. He's really trying to communicate that like there's nothing to be scared of
Hmm.
because he doesn't want Joyce to move away. Um, and calls her out for it. Like, I know that Gary's been fixing up your house to put on the market, and that's all, yeah, interrupted by. I mean, we are lulled into this sense of security that nobody's around. It's dead quiet. They are talking, just the two of them. But then we don't hear like a chittering or a little animal rodent around. It's like somebody's here and a door closes, but and it's like immediately like I remember feeling so scared, way more scared of this than like any of the Demogorgon, Demodog, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's like you suspect that there's another person there in this lab that's uh, supposed to be abandoned.
I didn't remember what happened, and for whatever reason, maybe because I was scared too, I just was like, oh, maybe it's Dr. Sam. Like the doctor's there for some reason, and he's got answers. Like not the case.
It just
Uh,
spooked me too much.
yeah. From there, we cut to Mike and Lucas, and they're riding through the rain on their bikes, and they arrive at Will's house to apologize. But they knock, knock, knock. He's not there. We see that, after Will stormed off from Mike's house, he went straight to Castle Byers, and he's kind of looking through a comic book, and he has a flashback of his youth and how things used to be with the boys playing D&D, and he has a flashback to that, and it just upsets him even more to see like those happy times, and he just says stupid, so stupid. And then he sees a picture of them when they were wearing their Ghostbusters costumes. He rips that picture apart. He starts tearing down all the artwork he's made. And then he takes a baseball bat and he walks outside in the rain and just starts bashing and tearing down Castle Byers while the poor little guy's just bawling and crying.
Yeah, and it's really emotional for us as an audience because we recognize the things inside his little fort there, like the picture of the Ghostbusters things and Will the Wise drawing and all this stuff. And it's kind of symbolic that it's happening during this deluge downpour outside because water is kind of getting into the fort. It's all covered with tarps and everything, but it's not totally dry. And he's just getting wet himself in this thing. And it's like he's not just tearing apart things that are symbolic. As an audience, we recognize this stuff, and he's like, he really is kind of destroying his memories that we as an audience are kind of a part of.
Right.
And, he hits the outside of it so many times with a baseball bat, and he does some damage, and then he just drops the baseball bat and starts tearing it down with his own bare hands.
Yep.
He's so committed to this while he's reciting this. I'm so stupid. It's so stupid. Almost like he's blaming himself for having too high of expectations for them or something.
Yeah. Or
So
that, like, just the conflict of, like, again, like, it's almost like he's killing his childhood in this moment. Like, this is the moment he's just saying goodbye to being kids anymore, and he doesn't like this new serious life that he's faced with because like I
yeah,
said, his childhood got robbed. Oh, poor kid.
yeah.
From there, we are with Nancy and Jonathan. They arrive at Mrs. Driscoll's and they knock. No answer. That's kind of weird to them because she lives by herself and they're like, she's always should be home. And Nancy's like, maybe she fell or something. So that's her good enough excuse to go in and open the door. They start asking for Miss Driscoll. Are you here? Are you home? And no answer. And so they start to go down to the basement. And the first thing they see is more open bags of fertilizer on the ground. And they hear like a really weird, vicious sound. We're thinking, oh God, how many rats are there? They round a corner only to find there's Mrs. Driscoll and she's eating the fertilizer.
It's so gross. You see her from the back first, where she's just hunched over this like bench or table or something in the corner, totally oblivious to what's going on. Did not hear them knocking, did not hear them enter the house, did not hear them coming down to the basement, does not realize that they're standing right behind her. And she turns around and just her whole face is covered with this black fertilizer stuff. And it is terrifying of an
This
image.
this is the weirdest human scene I think we've seen so far as just like what recently was a normal human. This juxtaposition, the next time we see them, is the most gross, unimaginable like difference from just the scene before.
Yeah. Well, and they mention one of them mentions like, well, maybe she's not, maybe she's out, and Nancy's like, she's 80 years old and she lives by herself. So we
Yeah.
get the impression, she's 80 years old, she's kind of frail, but in this scene, she is just ravenous over this fertilizer stuff.
Fertilizer.
Oh,
And from there, the next scene, another escalation. Uh, we're at the mall. It's after dark. It's storming. It's raining really hard, and we see some trucks backing up to like the loading dock. That's not unusual, you know, getting a shipment at the mall. And here's Dustin and Robin and Steve, and they're spying from a nearby roof. And what do they see? They see some boxes with pandas on them that armed guards are receiving at the mall, at the dock of the mall. Lots of boxes in this warehouse, uh, and they almost get spotted because one of them makes a noise and they duck really quickly. And while they duck, some reason Robin and Steve grabbed hands. That was a little weird. But anyway, they think they've been spotted, and you know, one of the two armed men shouts something in Russian, and it's like, I'm going to go investigate this. You stay here on the dock. He comes up to the roof. The kids are gone. They're back in the mall. At the same time, Hopper across town is investigating his sound. So there's a nice juxtaposition of people investigating sounds. And Hopper goes into police mode. He's like, come out with your hands up. And out of nowhere, the Russian strangler attacks him. And he's huge and he's beating the crap out of Hopper. And he wins. Like he knocks Hopper out cold. And Joyce finds him. And I'm like, what's going to happen to Joyce? But by the time Joyce finds Hopper out, we see a motorcycle driving away in the dark.
yeah. Um, this is a weird scene with the kids on the roof, like spying on this clandestine delivery with these armed guards and everything.
Yep.
We're like, what is happening at the mall? And it feels so totally unrelated to what we just saw with Steve or Jonathan and Nancy at Mrs. Driscoll's house.
Yeah.
And Hopper gets the absolute living crap beat out of him by this Russian guy, and it's like all the pieces are kind of there, but nothing makes any sense to come together.
Nope.
But yeah, Joyce watches the motorcycle pull away in the rain.
So from there, uh, I think Max and 11 are on a bicycle in the rain. Max is pedaling and 11 standing up like on the pegs, 80s style. And they arrive at this red door that 11 had seen in her void vision.
Yeah.
And she unlocks the door with her powers and they just walk on in. I'm like, nope, 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 nope. And they walk in, and what do they see? It's the lifeguard Heather, and she happens to be the daughter of the paper boss, Tom. And they're all seated at like she's with presumably her mom too, and they're sitting down having dinner. And who else walks into dinner? Billy.
And Heather's
So
like wearing a nice dress and she's perfectly fine.
yeah, not icy at all. Uh, so Tom is like, who in the heck are you and why are you in my house? And Billy speaks up. He's like, I'm sorry, Janet, Tom, this is my sister Maxine. Is something wrong? And uh I don't know why I write this down. Maybe you can remember. I put down, where is she? Where is who?
I
So,
think 11 or Max asks Billy, where is she? And
uh-huh.
Billy's like, where is who?
And so the confusion, like Max is or 11 so confused, like Heather, Heather is alive and she's here. And so they kind of ask, like, try to figure out why the girls are there. Like, you're looking for somebody. And Max is the one who covers and says something like, "Oh, we were at the pool and we saw your manager, and they said that they were worried that you didn't come in today." And Billy makes up a lie and says, "Oh, Billy says she wasn't feeling good, so they took the day off." So Billy is like, he's just being unusually kind and courteous, and Heather offers them something that's fresh out of the oven, and they're just freaked out by this whole scene. Like, why are they here? So they leave. The girls leave, and Billy shuts the door behind them. And as he looks out at Max and 11 leaving into the darkness of night, he's looking out the window. He just looks possessed, and he has a flashback, a massive flashback, and for whatever reason, him staring at 11 triggers him being able to see 11 closing the gate. So he is seeing what happened at the end of last season in real time, or not real time, but in his mind,
Yeah.
sees it close. But then at the end of his little vision, the gate flashes open. Across town at the same time, Will is out back, still destroying the castle, and he gets the chills on his neck. Mike and Lucas find him and they start to apologize, but Will just cuts them off and gets to the seriousness of the moment. And Will says he's back. Billy and Heather at dinner. Janet says, "Oh, I'm feeling lightheaded." She says she's going to go lie down, but she makes a couple steps in the living room and she passes out on the floor. Billy opens a vial of some sort of liquid, puts it on a little napkin or cloth. Heather hits her own dad in the face with a wine bottle, almost knocks him out, and then says, "I'm really sorry about this, Daddy, but it'll all be over soon." As Bye Bye America or Bye Bye Miss American Pie starts playing, and Billy just kind of has this grin.
Oh, it's so creepy.
Roll creepy credits.
This scene is so creepy because Billy has been so sick and like he's got a fever, like he's not well, he's stumbling around, he's like just not himself. And obviously we know that Heather has been, taken and needs help and was like so desperate popping out of the ice. And here we see this weird kind of like perfect suburban dinner where everybody is really well behaved and Billy looks, even better even than he did the night of his date. Like he just looks perfect and his skin is perfect and he's acting so gentlemanly and like even when Max is there, he's just acting totally
Like he loves his sister.
yeah, like he's acting like a really great host. And Heather has this kind of weird, creepy, thing. And Tom says to Janet something about like, I told you to go easy on that wine or something.
Uh-huh.
Like the two of them are running this really perfectly planned kind of scheme to knock their parents out. And 11 is there for that moment where she's just like, what am I watching here? Like nothing adds up.
No.
And it's so indicative of what we felt as an audience this whole season of like every time we're introduced to something weird again, we're just like, what am I watching here?
Yeah.
This is another, we got Miss Driscoll eating the fertilizer. We got Billy's
Oh.
kind of, weirdness being taken and then now being perfectly fine and getting the visions of the gate closing as he watches 11 like he knows 11. And then now we've got Dustin and Robin and Steve watching some armed Russian guys receive a delivery at the mall. I'm like, we assume something's going to come together at some point, but it's just like nothing makes sense yet.
I remember feeling the same way. Like, okay, I can't, I couldn't see what was going to happen because none of the pieces were related enough. Like, for example, the Russians making a delivery at the mall. Like, I mean, that could just be the Russian mafia making deliveries of drugs.
Yeah.
The strange thing though is that there is, you know, we know that the Russian strangler had been privy to the scientific experiments where they were trying to open a gate. So he saw what they're trying to do, but for some reason he's now in Hawkins. So that's a huge
And
red flag that he's present.
and that nothing really seems to be related to the lab at all.
Yep. Yep.
I mean,
And
other than the Russian strangler guy being there, but was he
Ooh,
just there because they saw Hopper and Joyce come to the lab on the security cameras?
yeah, have they been
Lab
spying
isn't
and
operational.
somehow they knew that Joyce and Hopper were on their way to the lab? I don't know.
I mean, none of it makes sense, but man, that last scene is so creepy. It's very cinematic. The whole thing kind of feels like like an 80s or 90s
Like a Quentin
thriller.
Tarantino.
It's not the first time we've made that connection between a Quentin Tarantino-esque
Ooh.
kind of storytelling.
Yeah. Well,
Your camera, your camera is finding your face like really close. Well, it figures now that Billy's possessed, he's nicer and happier, kind of like it has like the mind flayer or whatever, the big baddie has the
yeah.
opposite effect on Billy. It makes him a good person.
I have a feeling though that he's done making girls happy scream though. He's not
But
himself anymore.
yeah, and with Hopper currently totally out cold, I have a feeling the chit is going to hit the fan in an all new way. I mean, hopefully we know, like, hopefully we get some of these answers. Like, these
With it
roads are going to come to a intersection at some point.
within the next 5 minutes of the next episode, I'm sure it's going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
so
That's how every episode's been so far. The first 5 minutes have explained everything that we have questions about from the last
let's
episode.
let's binge on.
And John, we're behind anyway, so we're just going to keep it rolling.
Yep, burn the midnight chittering oil.
Yeah.
Well, stay tuned, y'all, because the Hawkins Observer will be right back after these messages.